Part 2. Maya's Awakening. The palace had been peaceful for 5 years. That was the part that should have warned them. Maya was 8 years old the morning it happened. She was doing what she always did before breakfast, sneaking through the palace garden in bare feet, silver eyes tracking a butterfly, with the pure focused joy of a child who had never been given a reason to fear mornings. The butterfly landed on a dying rose bush. Maya crouched in front of it, tilted her head, and without thinking, the way you scratch an itch without deciding to, she pressed one small finger to the stem. The rosebush exploded into bloom. Every dead branch, every closed bud, 60 roses opening simultaneously in 3 seconds, petals unfurling in a spiral from where her finger touched, silver light racing through the thorns like lightning finding ground. Maya snatched her hand back and stared at it. Both guards behind her dropped to their knees. "Don't," she said sharply, sounding so much like her father that one guard actually flinched. "Get up, right now, and nobody tells my parents." She looked at the roses blazing silver in the morning sun. Her parents were absolutely going to find out, but that wasn't the part that should have scared her. The part that should have scared her was the figure standing on the eastern wall who had watched the whole thing, perfectly still, perfectly silent, and was already walking away before the second guard had risen from his knees. He had been waiting 8 years for this exact morning. And now the waiting was over. Really quick. My husband bet me I can't hit 500 subscribers from this video. If I win, he owes me a special gift. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button right now. 2 seconds, costs you nothing, and helps me win. Okay. Back to Maya. Things are about to get very dark very fast. Stay with me. She almost made it to breakfast. She had washed her hands twice, changed her dress, and assembled an expression of complete innocence that had been fooling palace staff for 8 solid years. She slid into her seat, reached for her cup, and found both parents already looking at her. Not at their food, not at each other, at her. Her father's arms were folded. Her mother had that particular stillness. Not calm, the one that was calm on top of something else entirely. "Good morning," Maya said pleasantly. "Head gardener came to find me at dawn," Silas said. "Before coffee." A pause that filled the whole room. He was crying. People cry sometimes. "Happy crying, Maya." His silver eyes, the exact mirror of hers, didn't move an inch. He said the East Garden looks like the royal grounds did on Coronation Day. Every dead plant, every bare branch, all bloomed, overnight. Maya looked at her porridge. "That's lovely," she said carefully. Alara reached across and took her daughter's hand, turned it palm up, said nothing. Her thumb moved slowly across the center of Maya's palm, and her expression shifted into something that wasn't anger, wasn't fear, something older, quieter, recognition. "How long?" Alara asked softly. Maya's 8 years of carefully constructed innocence came apart all at once. Saw she was tired of carrying it alone, and her mother's hand was warm, and some things are simply too heavy for one person, regardless of how strong they are. "Since I was 6, she whispered. "Small things at first. I thought I was imagining it." Silas uncrossed his arms. The king fell back. The father stepped forward. "You should have told us," he said gently. "I didn't want to be different," Maya said. The table went quiet for a long moment. "My love," Alara said softly, "you were never going to be anything else." Outside the breakfast room window, 2 floors below in the palace courtyard, a man with ink-stained fingers and a leather satchel full of books was being escorted through the main gate by the royal chamberlain. His appointment letter had been signed 3 weeks ago. He had been patient. He was very good at patience. His name was Master Aldrich, and he had specifically requested the role of Maya's new history tutor. His name was Lord Kalen, 34 years old, 3 northern territories under his seal. 5 years of attending every public royal event with the calm, unhurried attention of a man waiting on something specific. He had been waiting for Maya. That same evening, he stood at the window of his private chamber inside the palace's guest wing. He had arranged an extended diplomatic stay 4 months ago, for reasons that had seemed perfectly legitimate to everyone who reviewed them. And he watched the lights in the royal family's quarters go out one by one. He had been 11 years old when Vora first told him about the real prophecy. Not the version the kingdom knew. The clean, comfortable one about the Luna returning and peace being restored. Sa, the older one, carved into basalt tablets she had spent 30 years collecting and hiding from the crown. The daughter born of eclipse and bond shall carry both the power to heal a kingdom and the power to unmake one. Whoever holds her loyalty holds the throne of the world. Vora was in the frozen wastes, banished, powerless. But her network wasn't, and her knowledge wasn't. And the 14-year-old girl Vora had personally trained in the arts of persuasion, memory, and long patience. The girl nobody had ever looked at twice because she was quiet and plain and spent most of her time in kitchens. Wasn't. That girl was now 31 years old. Her name, inside the palace, was Marta, the head kitchen supervisor, beloved by the staff, trusted completely by the queen herself, Ors who had once stayed up until midnight, helping Marta when her youngest child was sick with fever. Ilara had held Marta's child through the worst of it. She had no idea Marta had been inside her walls for 6 years. Had no idea that the warm, hard-working woman she considered something close to a friend sent a report to Kaelin every single week. Had no idea that the person she trusted most outside her family was the deepest root of everything about to destroy it. Kaelin looked at the darkened royal window and allowed himself one small, satisfied breath. The game begins, he thought. Let's see what the Luna's daughter is made of. The new history tutor was exactly what he appeared to be for exactly 11 days. Warm, brilliant, genuinely gifted with children. He made history feel like adventure, and Maya adored every session. Ilara had quietly observed 2 lessons through the cracked library door and found nothing alarming, just an excellent teacher doing excellent work. On the 12th day, everything changed, not because Aldrich made a mistake, because Aldrich made a choice. Maya arrived at the library early and found him already there, not preparing a lesson, but standing at the window with his back to the room, completely still. She almost announced herself. Something made her stop. He was talking, quietly, to no one she could see. "The girl is exceptional," he said. "Faster than Kaelin estimated. She'll be ready for the next phase within weeks, not months." "Master Aldrich?" He spun around. His face shifted so fast, from something hard and focused to the warm, scholarly smile, that Maya almost questioned what she'd heard. Almost. "Maya? You're early." Completely composed, not a tremor. She sat down. She opened her book. She smiled back at him, and she felt something cold settle in her chest. Not fear exactly. Something more focused than fear. The same instinct that had made her stop at the door. The same thing that lived in her mother's stillness and her father's pauses. "Pay attention," it said. "This is important." She didn't tell her parents that evening. She needed to understand what she'd walked into before she moved. What she didn't know, what none of them knew yet, was that Aldrich wasn't just Kaelin's tutor plant. Aldrich was Kaelin's younger brother, and he hadn't taken this assignment for money, or position, or loyalty to a network. He had taken it because Vora, before her banishment, had told Kaelin something she had told no one else, save something she had discovered in the basalt tablets after years of translation. The prophecy had a second half. The daughter born of eclipse and bond carries a power that cannot be taken, only given. She must choose the shadow willingly, and the one who earns that choice becomes undefeatable. Kaelin didn't want to control Maya. He wanted her to choose him. And he had sent his own brother, the person he trusted most in the world, to make that happen. Maya was not just a target. She was the entire plan. She found it by accident 3 days later. The north wing was quietly closed the way rooms are when they hold things too heavy to casually encounter. Maya had been chasing a cat. It slipped under a door at the end of the north corridor, and she followed without thinking and found a large, dusty room full of covered furniture, and one wall completely lined with locked iron cabinets. She knew immediately what they were. The evidence cabinets. The ones Vora had been trying to destroy. 23 years of careful, meticulous evil her father had preserved for the trial record. She pressed her palm flat against the nearest door, not meaning to use the power, just feeling. And beneath her hand, the iron warmed, the lock turned without a key, and the cabinet swung open. Hundreds of sealed documents in her father's handwriting, neatly organized, labeled. At the bottom of the first stack, a single loose page. Old ink on parchment, the color of old bone. The daughter born of eclipse and bond shall carry both the power to heal a kingdom and the power to unmake one. She read it once, read it again. Then she noticed something that made her stomach drop completely. The page had been torn, cleanly, deliberately, along the bottom edge. There was a second half, and it was gone. She stood in the cold, dusty room for a long time. Her father had kept everything, every document, every letter, every piece of evidence meticulously preserved. But the second half of the most important prophecy in the kingdom's history was missing. Did he know? She thought. Did he take it? Or did someone else? She folded the torn page and put it in her pocket. She had questions. For the first time in her life, she wasn't sure she wanted to ask her parents first, not because she didn't trust them, because she was suddenly terrified of what their answer might be. Quick pause. The prophecy has a missing second half, and Maya doesn't know if her own father took it. I promise it gets so much more complicated from here. Subscribe button. Hit it right now. My husband's gift is on the line, and we need 500. Back to the story. She came to the library before sunrise. She put the torn prophecy on the table between them without a word and watched his face. Aldrich looked at it. His expression did something she now knew to watch for. Not surprise, the performance of not being surprised. She had only learned to see that difference 3 days ago. Now she couldn't unsee it. "Where did you find this?" he asked. "North wing, evidence cabinets." She kept her voice open and curious. "There's a second half. It's been removed. Do you know what it says?" He looked at her for a long moment, deciding something. "Yes," he said. "Tell me." And he did. Partially, carefully. The way you feed thread to someone you want to follow you. Enough to keep them moving forward. Not enough to show them where they're going. He told her the eclipse power was real. That what she carried was transformation, not just restoration. That her parents had been given only the comfortable version. He did not tell her the second half said the power could only be given, never taken. He did not tell her that everything he was doing was designed to make her choose his brother willingly. He did not tell her that the missing page was sitting in a locked box in Kalen's guest chamber, 2 floors above them. But Maya had stopped listening to what he was saying 3 sentences in. She was listening to what he wasn't saying. There was a shape to his silence, a careful architecture of omission. And the longer he talked, the clearer the outline of the missing piece became. The way you can see the shape of a missing puzzle piece by studying the pieces around it. She nodded. She asked the questions he expected. She let him believe the seed had taken root. She went back to her room and wrote down everything he hadn't said. "Someone has the second half," she wrote, "and whatever it says is the real reason I matter to them, not the half they're showing me, the half they're hiding." She stared at what she had written for a long time. Then she wrote one more line. "I need to find Kalen's room. Mothers notice things before anyone else." It wasn't one moment. It was 20 small ones accumulating silently. Maya going quiet at dinners she used to dominate. Dawn library visits. The new habit of watching her father speak to the lords. Not with admiration. With assessment. Measuring his words against something else she'd been given. Ilara noticed all of it. She said nothing. She watched. And she started watching Marta. She couldn't have said exactly why. 6 years of trust, genuine warmth, real friendship. Nothing specific she could point to. just a quiet accumulation of small things that her body registered before her mind caught up. The way Marta's eyes moved to Maya when she entered a room. The way certain conversations seemed to find their way to sensitive topics naturally. The specific quality of her listening. On the 12th day, Ilara excused herself from a kitchen conversation early, walked to the east corridor, and stopped. She pressed her back against the cold stone wall and stood in the dark for 60 seconds. Is this real? She asked herself. Or am I so conditioned to waiting for the danger that I'm inventing it? She thought about the scrub brush, the tower, Vora crouching to her level with a saint's smile. The way evil, in her experience, had always come wearing the face of something she needed. She moved. She went to the library. She found Aldrich alone and sat down across from him and folded her hands and looked at him with everything 3 years of running had taught her. "What are you teaching, my daughter?" she asked pleasantly. "History, critical thinking." About her father? The half-second pause. The recalibration behind his eyes. "I teach her to question everything," he said carefully. "So would I," Ilara agreed, "if that were all it was." She stood, smoothed her dress. "I grew up running," she said quietly. "I know what it looks like when someone builds a path for you to run toward. You're building one for my daughter." She met his eyes. "I want to know who it leads to, before my husband does, because our responses will be very different." She left him sitting there. She had 3 days to find the answer. She found Marta's report to Kaylin hidden inside a flour sack in the kitchen pantry in one. She sat on the cold kitchen floor with the letter in her hands and let herself feel it. The specific, particular grief of a betrayal by someone you had genuinely loved. She had held this woman's sick child. She had stayed until the fever broke. She pressed her hand flat on the stone floor, the same cold stone she had once scrubbed on her knees, and she breathed. Then she stood up, folded the letter, and went to find her husband. She found him in the north wing, not near the evidence cabinets, in the small private room beyond them, the one with no furniture and one table and a single locked box she had never seen before. He was standing in front of it with his back to the door, and he heard her come in and he didn't turn around, which told her everything. "You knew," she said. A long pause. "Not about Kaylin specifically," Silas said. "Not about Aldrich or Marta. Not about the network." He finally turned around, and his face was exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with the hour. "But I knew someone would come. Eventually. For Maya." He looked at the locked box. "Because of what the second half of the prophecy says." The room was very quiet. "You have it," Ilara said. "I found it 3 years ago, tucked behind the other documents. I read it." He met her eyes. "And I didn't tell you." He met her eyes. "And I didn't tell you." She looked at him for a long time. 8 years of building something new together. 8 years of no more secrets, no more half-truths, no more things too heavy to share. "Why?" she asked. Her voice was very steady. "Because the second half says the power can only be given, never taken, that Maya must choose the shadow willingly, that whoever she chooses becomes undefeatable." He paused. "Which means every ambitious person who ever reads that prophecy has exactly one goal, not to take Maya, to convince her, to make her want to choose them." His jaw tightened. "I thought if I locked it away, if no one knew it existed, she'd be safer." "You thought keeping her in the dark would protect her?" "Yes. Like someone kept us in the dark to protect us." The silence after that was the most devastating thing in the room. Silas closed his eyes briefly, opened them. "I know," he said quietly. Ilara crossed the room. She stood in front of him. She took the key from his hand. He gave it without resistance, and she unlocked the box and took out the torn second half of the prophecy and read it herself. She read it twice. Then she set it on the table. "She already found the first half," Ilara said. "She's been carrying it for 4 days. She knows it's torn. She knows something is missing, and she's been trying to find the shape of it in Aldrich's silences. She looked at her husband. Our daughter is trying to solve a puzzle we handed her with a piece deliberately removed, and she's almost solved it anyway. Silas looked at the paper on the table. She's 8, he said. She's ours, Alara said, and we are done keeping things from her. Both of us. She picked up the second half. She took his hand. Come on, she said. We have a library to go to. She was already there. Of course she was. Prophecy first half on the table, 3 books open around it, a piece of paper covered in her own handwriting. Not notes, a diagram. She had been mapping the shape of what she didn't know using everything she did know, and she had gotten close. Very close. She looked up when they came in. Her silver eyes went immediately to the folded page in Ilara's hand. That's the second half, she said. Not a question. Yes, Ilara said. Dad had it. Silas sat down across from her. Yes. How long? 3 years. Maya looked at him for a long moment with her mother's absolute stillness, and then she said something neither of them expected. Were you scared? Silas blinked. Yes. Of people coming for me? Yes. Maya nodded slowly, like this answered something, like she was filing it away somewhere careful. Aldrich's brother is Lord Kalin, she said. I figured that out 2 days ago. They have the same pause before they answer a question they already know the answer to. You do it too sometimes, by the way. She looked at her father briefly. Kalin is in the East Guest Wing. He has the second half of the prophecy, or he thinks he does. He's been there 4 months. Marta reports to him weekly. She paused. I think Marta is the most important one. So she knows everything about how this household operates. Alara sat down slowly. How long have you known about Marta? She asked carefully. 8 days. I saw her pass a folded note to the stable boy Kalin uses as a courier. Maya looked at her mother. I didn't tell you because I was trying to understand how deep it went before I said anything. A pause. I didn't want to scare you before I had something useful. The room was quiet. Alara pressed her hand over her mouth for exactly 1 second. Then she lowered it. You were protecting us, she said. You were protecting me, Maya said simply. It seemed fair. Silas made a sound that was not quite a laugh and not quite something else. Alara slid the second half of the prophecy across the table. Maya picked it up and read it. Her expression moved through several things. Surprise, then understanding, then something that settled into a slow, quiet fury. He never wanted to take my power, she said. He wanted me to choose him. Everything Aldrich did, the real information, the trust, the questions, it was all designed to make me want to walk toward Kalin. Yes, Alara said. Maya set the page down. I want to finish this myself, she said. She walked into the library the next morning at the usual time. Aldrich looked up with the warm smile. Maya sat down, folded her hands, and looked at him the way her mother had looked at him 11 days ago. Walk me through the plan, she said conversationally. Specifically, the ceremony, the public denouncement of my father, all of it. I want to understand exactly what Kalin is expecting from me. The warmth drained from his face completely. For the first time, she saw what was underneath it. Not cold calculation, not cruelty. Something almost worse. Genuine belief. He actually thought this was right. He actually thought he was offering her something. You know, he said quietly, I've known pieces for 2 weeks, Maya said. I found all of them 4 days ago. I've been waiting for the right moment. She tilted her head. Tell me something. Does Kalin know the second half says the power can only be given? That I have to choose willingly? A pause. Yes. And he thought that would work? That eventually I'd want to choose him? He believed... Aldrich stopped, started again. He believed that if you understood what you truly were, what you truly carried, You would want a world that matched it. A world built around your power rather than built around my family, Maya said quietly. He didn't answer. She stood up. You're his brother, she said. He sent you because you're the person he trusts most. Because he thought if anyone could make me choose this, it would be someone who actually believed in it. She paused. I want you to tell him something from me. Tell him I read the full prophecy. Tell him I understand what I carry. She met his eyes. And tell him that the reason his plan failed isn't because he used the wrong strategy. It's because he fundamentally misunderstood what I would choose to be. The door opened. Guards, her father, her mother in the doorframe. Aldrich looked at Maya one last time. You're 8 years old, he said. The same stunned disbelief as before. I know, Maya said. Imagine what I'll be at 16. Kaylin surrendered before sunset. When Silas walked into the East guest wing with the evidence, Aldrich's testimony, Marta's letters, the documented network, the stolen prophecy half found exactly where Maya said it would be, there was nothing left to build a defense from. Kaylin sat in his chair and looked at the papers, and then looked up at Silas with an expression that wasn't defeat exactly. It was the specific look of a man who had spent 5 years on a plan that failed at the deepest possible level, not through bad execution, but through a wrong assumption at the foundation. She chose them, Kaylin said quietly, almost to himself. She chose herself, Silas said. You forgot those aren't the same thing. Marta's arrest was the hardest part. Ilara stood in the kitchen doorway and watched the guards lead her out and felt the specific grief of a clean, sharp betrayal. The kind that hurts most, not because of what was lost, but because of what was real inside it. Marta's care for her children had been real. Her work had been real. 6 years of genuine warmth, running alongside 6 years of deliberate deception. Ilara had learned, a long time ago, that both things could be true. It didn't make it hurt less. It just made it more human. 3 days later, they were in the garden. The roses were extraordinary. The head gardener had stopped trying to explain them and had started simply tending them, which was probably the right response. Maya sat cross-legged on the grass in front of the largest bush, her chin in her hands, looking at nothing in particular. Silas sat on the bench. Ilara sat beside him. The old gap between them that had always been Maya's was conspicuously empty. Are you angry? Ilara asked. She was asking Maya, but she looked at Silas when she said it. At Dad? No, Maya said. I understand why he did it. I almost did the same thing with Marta. I sat on what I knew for 8 days because I thought knowing more first would protect everyone. She paused. We do the same thing. We keep things from people we love because we think the weight of knowing will hurt them. She picked a blade of grass apart slowly. But the weight of not knowing is heavier. It just lands differently. The garden was quiet. That took me about 35 years to understand, Silas said. I'm a fast learner, Maya said. She stood up and brushed the grass off her dress and looked at both of them. This man and this woman, who had found each other in a sacred wood during an eclipse and run from it and been dragged back to it and built something extraordinary from the wreckage of all the hiding. I want to go to the Northern Territories, she said. See what people there actually believe. What Kaylin told them. What they want. She straightened. Not as a princess making a diplomatic visit, as someone who wants to understand. I know, Ilara said, and I want to learn from the basalt tablets, all of them, even the parts that are uncomfortable. I know, Silas said, and I want a tutor who doesn't have a secret brother. That, Silas said, and something in his voice finally, all fully broke open into something warm and helpless and purely parental. I have personally ensured. Maya almost smiled. Almost. Then she crossed the garden and wedged herself into the gap between them on the bench. The old habit. The space that had always been hers, and leaned back and looked up at the sky. The roses blazed around them, silver and gold in the afternoon light. In the palace behind them, a kingdom was learning, slowly, imperfectly, stubbornly, to become something new. Not because a prophecy demanded it, not because a battle had been won, but because a family on a garden bench kept choosing honesty over protection, kept choosing the weight of knowing over the false comfort of not knowing. One quiet afternoon at a time, and somewhere in the Northern Territories, a message was already traveling toward the palace, not from Kalen's network, not from any enemy, from a village elder who had heard rumors of what happened in the palace, who had something she wanted the Luna's daughter to know, something about the eclipse, something about a third tablet nobody had found yet, something that changed everything about what Maya was. But that was a story for another day. And that's where we leave Maya for now. 8 years old and already more dangerous than anyone in that kingdom is ready for. The subscriber bet. My husband is watching these numbers right now. We need 500 for me to win my gift. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do it right now. It means everything. And if you want part 3, Maya at 16, the third tablet, and what it means for everything, comment part 3 below right now. Thank you for being here. Genuinely. See you in part 3.